Ladies and gentlemen, it's indeed a glorious moment to reflect on the words of the former president of Harvard University, Charles W. Eliot. He said, "Books are the quietest and most constant of friends. They are the of an emotionally rich and culturally fascinating portrait of contemporary India and its diaspora through his debut book, his magnum opus, The Best Possible Experience Stories." I am truly proud and privileged to introduce its creator, Shri Nishant Injam Garu, an award-winning Indian origin author who has honestly portrayed the slice of life approach in his anthology of short stories. As the anchors for this event, Alvina and I, Ananya, throw open this grand day for the ceremonial launch of the book, The Best Possible Experience Stories. Let's give the author a big round of applause. Nishant Injam's and towering testimony to Sri Prakash's imaginative contingent of budding authors. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of staff, students and management of Sri Prakash Synergy School, Peddapuram, I extend a warm welcome to you all to this glorious book launch program. Thank you one and all.
Pride and pleasure that we introduce the distinguished president of this event, Shri Piratla Shri Sala Sastri Garu. Please join me in extending a warm and enthusiastic welcome as we invite him on stage. His wealth of knowledge and dedication to education and communication make him the ideal president of our event today. Mr. Sastri's illustrious career in education speaks volumes about his dedication and expertise. As the head of the English department at Government Arts College, Rajahmundry, he has been instrumental in shaping the educational journey of numerous students. Furthermore, Mr. Sastri's impact transcends borders as he holds the esteemed position of an English language fellow master trainer at both the US State Department and the government of Andhra Pradesh. His commitment to enhancing language proficiency and fostering cultural exchange is truly commendable. Additionally, he serves as a communication skills trainer at JKCs, where he imparts essential life skills to individuals, furthering their personal and professional development. Notably, Mr. Sastri is a valued contributor to the Board of Intermediate Andhra Pradesh, where his insights and expertise help shape the academic landscape of the region. A big round of applause for Sir, please. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a momentous occasion as we gather here today, and we are privileged to have the presence of Professor K. Sri Ramesh Garu as the chief guest of today's occasion. Please join me in extending a heartfelt welcome to Professor K. Sri Ramesh Garu as we invite him to stage. Professor Ramesh is not only an accomplished educator, but also a respected member of the National Independent Schools Alliance, NISA. His commitment to the advancement of education has a profound impact on the academic landscape. Currently, serving as the principal of the esteemed Arts and Commerce College at the Adi Kavi Nannaya University in Rajahmundry, Professor Ramesh has demonstrated exemplary leadership and dedication to his pursuit of knowledge. A big round of applause for Sir, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is both honor and a privilege to introduce a distinguished educationalist and a luminary in the field of academics, Shri Injam Venkataramana Rao Garu. Enthusiastic welcome to Injamma Venkataramana Rao Garu as we invite him onto the stage. Shri Ramana Rao Garu wears multiple hats, such as emblematic of his unwavering commitment to education. As the chairman of New Era Group of Schools in Khammam, he has played a pivotal role in shaping the educational landscape and advisor on the English Development Program. Please give him a big round of applause. Shri Nishant Injam Garu, pride is ours in having your gorgeous presence here, and we, in all modesty, would like to request you to adorn the dais. And I also request the Honorable Director Sir Shri C.H. Vijay Prakash Garu to accompany him. We are indeed honored to have the illustrious presence of Shri Nishant Injam Garu among us. Graduated from the University of Michigan's Helen Zell Writers Program, Shri Nishant Injam Garu, an Indian origin author, was honored inter alia with the Chamberlain Award along with the Frederick Bush Prize in Fiction. Encomiums through literary reviews rained on the grandeur of the debut book. The New York Times stated a book a stunning debut and even named it the editor's choice pick. The endorsement, so rich and so beautiful from Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Sasha Pfeiffer, is a true testimony to his writing prowess. Further, Injam sir won a bouquet of awards that include Penn Robert J. Dow Short Story Prize, the Cecilia Joyce Johnson Emerging Writing Award from the Key West Literary Seminar, among others. World-renowned journals and magazines such as The Atlantic, the Virginia Quarterly Review, the Georgia Review have praiseworthily published the literary works. More curiously, the e-commerce giant Amazon has hallmarked his debut book as being the most popularly reviewed book in the season. Ladies and gentlemen, The Bus, The Zamindar's Watch, Zoetrope All's Story, The Math of the Living, VQR are some of the most exciting fictional writings by the author that hit the stand. Thank you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, as a pious expression of gratitude to the God and spiritual ethos and as a mark of spreading positivity, I would like to request the author, Shri Nishant Injam Garu, to kindle the auspicious lamp. It's a privilege to request our Honorable Director, Shri C.H. Vijay Prakash Garu, and other dignitaries.
शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्परब्रह्म दीपज्योतिर्जनार्दनः दीपज्योतिर्परब्रह्म दीपज्योतिर्जनार्दनः दीपो हरतु मे पापम् सन्ध्यादीपनमोऽस्तुते ओ दीपब्रह्मरूपस्त्वं ज्योतिषां प्रभुरव्ययः ओ दीपब्रह्मरूपस्त्वं ज्योतिषां प्रभुरव्ययः आरोग्यं देहि पुत्रांश्च मतिं स्वच्छां हि मे सदा रवेरस्तं समारभ्य यावत् सूर्योदयो भवेत् रवेरस्तं समारभ्य अस्ति दरिद्रता शुभं कुरु त्वं कल्याणम्.
Fictional genre, the best possible experience stories, which is a seamless anthology that vividly focuses on India, Indians, and Indianness here and abroad. There are 11 short stories: The Immigrant, The Protocol, and Of Their Kind, each with its own unique, gripping appeal, which richly features the cultural ethos and episodes that are deeply anchored in India's spiritual, social, and economic value system. The ubiquitous feature of these stories is that they are highly captivating accounts of grief, challenges, and sufferings, and mysticism that encompasses the Asian diaspora in America. One of the major takeaways of this intriguing yet illuminating book is the experience of otherness of the immigrant situation. In a nutshell, this debut book comes out with an epic mosaic of life. This debut book, from the mighty pen of Shri Nishant Injam Garu, was published by Pantheon Books in the US and HarperCollins in India. In 2023, Ladies and gentlemen, this wonderful anthology never fails the expectations of bibliophiles and connoisseurs of fiction alike. Sri Prakash is highly privileged to be the venue of the ceremonial launch of this most anticipated book of the year, The Best Possible Experience Stories, authored by Shri Nishant Injam Garu. In all humbleness, I would like to request all the dignitaries of the occasion to launch the book in all solemnity.
Here today to celebrate the launch of this significant literary work, it's my distinct honor and privilege to hand over the proceedings of this momentous book launch event to our esteemed president, Sri Shaila Shastri Garu. Mr. Shastri Garu's wealth of experience and profound commitment to education and communication makes him the perfect leader for this occasion. His leadership will guide us through this event and ensure its success. Without further ado, I invite Sri Shastri Garu to take the stage and lead us in the celebration of literature and knowledge. Thank you, sir, and over to you.
Excellencies on the stage. The director, Vijay Prakash.
My soul, Dr. Ramana, and the budding, blooming, and fruiting now. His son, now the son of India, Injam, Nishant. I went through this book and I can only start this with my heartful blessings to the young man. Really, I felt it a privilege to go to this book. This is a unique production. Though it's called a collection of short stories, I felt each story had the potential to be developed into a novel. Because the way it was dealt with, the tangible experience that the writer was trying to give every reader, the way he engaged everyone's attention, the characters he has drawn, one cannot help accepting or admitting that there is a magic in this small guy. He's thrice his age in terms of the way he studies people. This book is more than an art movie. The characters he has created, he has excelled Bapu and Ramana. You cannot help falling in love with the book in terms of the locale, the setting, the characters, the dialogue. I cannot help recollecting a quote by Wordsworth. Poetry is what is most often felt but never so well expressed. It doesn't come as a new talk or a new book or a new experience, but it definitely introduces you to your own self. You don't find anything new, but the way it was presented, the way it was projected makes you, this is what I've been trying to tell many people, but never did I say. How well it was said. Let me say, this young man is a spokesperson of every literate, every person who has a heart, every person who has something to say about someone, something to respond to some situation. I'm very sure my words do not sound relevant unless you read this book. Believe it or not, I read this book word for word. And in the morning when I met him first, I told him only one thing. I don't see you new. You have been more than introduced to me in this book. Yes. It's not just autobiographical, but it definitely inaugurates a stage and operates a kind of celluloid movie in your mind. You cannot but be one with the characters, especially the dialogue that he has created. And now I understand why he has chosen the genre of the short story. Generally, we think that writing a short story is easier than writing a novel. Very, very wrong. Because compressing a 200 to 300 page novel into a 14 to 15 page short story, creating the experience of the character, the struggle of the character, the aspirations of the character, to the extent you cannot but sympathize with them, you cannot but agree with them, with all their faults, with all their merits, with all their eccentricities. Every character here, he has left no one among us unbrought into this book. Starting from a child to an aged tata. He studied them all, compressed them. He has the art of compression. Compressed them into small characters and presented their entirety into a few paragraphs or pages. That is the magic. I reserve my time to talk about this book in detail for the end. But before that, I'd like to share only one experience. I'm very sure Nishant, he did not become a writer because he wanted to be a writer. Most of us, unfortunately, consider writing as a profession. But for him, it's not a profession. It's an inevitability. It is a struggle which he cannot help expressing himself out. Poets are not the people that have strenuously strained themselves and become. He has himself come out to its full. The second thing, the genre that he has chosen, being the first attempt itself, he has added a certain standard to short story. There are several acclaimed short story writers in India, starting from R.K. Narayan. But his style, his humor, his language, his punctuation, his sentences, as Wordsworth said, most often felt and never so well expressed. I was thrilled when I saw certain sentences. He tightened his belt to the last hole, he said. We often feel it, but we never know how to say it. And there are certain expressions he used which have come very natural, like the song of a nightingale, untrained but still beautiful, because it was untrained. So, the natural way, the way he introduced India to the West, and the way he introduced the Western philosophy, Western lifestyles, Western value system to India, in that way, I can call him a wonderful literary ambassador, transacting in. That's why I said, this boy, I still call him a boy. This boy has a long way to go. And this is only a beginning, a humble beginning. But I'm very sure it makes way for many more proud achievements the whole nation will definitely be proud of, to look towards him, to look at him, and to look for him. Thank you. Ramesh ji, to speak a few words about this book, because he has himself gone through. He's a wonderful critic and analyst. Thank you.
President of today's meeting, Shastri Garu, the father of the bridegroom, I would like to say, and also Nishant Injam, the author of this book that we launched today, teachers of this school, and my dear students of this school, wonderful school, rather. When Vijay Prakash Garu has called me to invite me to this launch of the book, I was wondering, because throughout my career, I have attended n number of book launches. Either they used to happen in a publisher's houses or in some hotels, but never in a school. So this is the first time that I am experiencing the launch of a book in a school. When I was working in Arunachal Pradesh, that was in Itanagar, in the Rajiv Gandhi Central University, I was invited to a book launch by the famous writer there. I'll recollect her name and tell you. Pensam, that is a collection of short stories. It was inaugurated by the Chief Minister of that state. Usually, book launches happen with some political bigwigs or some other, maybe some stalwarts, etc. Or sometimes, if it is in Western countries, usually in some bookstores or even some publishing houses. But this is really a very wonderful experience, both for me as well as for the students of this school, because for seeing a book, an author, and a book launching here is not a small thing. So let me congratulate the management of this school as well as the teachers and the students for being lucky to see that a book is launched in this institution. Thank you, sir, for that. For giving this wonderful experience. Young writers are called prodigies. uh, Nishant was born and brought up here, and he has migrated, I don't think completely, to US. And of late, when we come to literary studies, a good number of writers in India, or a lot of writing is coming more from immigrant writers rather than from writers from India. Whether you call it Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni, Anita Rao Badami, Jhumpa Lahiri, and name from Salman Rushdie, you can name any major English writer today. All of them are born, but they migrate to US or other Western countries and they publish there wonderfully. I don't know, maybe this immigrant experience provokes them, germinates some sort of a creative aspiration in these people, that they turn towards writing. Many of them are either doctors or like our Nisha, some of them are even computer specialists or other professionals, but they turn to writing. Because when we go back to this immigrant experience, I don't know how many of you be reading Mahabharata. I'm sure many of you be knowing that. I'm addressing the students here. We know that in Mahabharata there is an episode of Vishwamitra creating another world. And he wants to send one king directly to heaven. But the heaven, Indra doesn't permit that man to come inside. So he creates another heaven. That is called Trishanku Suragam. So this immigrant experience are often compared to this Trishanku Swargam because you are neither here nor there. Surprisingly, when I opened this book, the first story is located in a bus from Bangalore to Hyderabad, if I remember right. Maybe some other, he didn't give the destination. Just 10 days back, I was also traveling, coming from Bangalore to Rajahmundry in a bus. I could not get a flight on that day, so I took the bus. So suddenly when I was reading that experiences, the bus with a toilet and how the eerie disappearance of the travelers and all that, I was then remembering another famous writer, Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni. She was a feminist writer, a woman who narrates women's experiences more in her writings. The first story is always located in India. But the next story, the rest of the stories are all located abroad. Nishant, I'm surprised to see the same pattern going on here also. Maybe all writers who have migrated that way begin like this. Maybe they start with India and they go abroad, I think. Maybe this is a pattern. Maybe this is a research point for our research scholars, Shastriji. This is something strange because very often many of these writers happen to, first story will always be located in India, but the rest of them go abroad. So reading these texts, I mean the first story, I felt that Nishant has already joined the elite club of these writers. Jhumpa Lahiri that I named just now. Because they are the people who are actually taking India to the whole world. I know that in vernacular literatures, whether it is in Telugu or Hindi or other literature, we have wonderful writers. But they cannot be communicated to the rest of the world because of the language barrier. But it is the Indian writers, Indian English writers, who take India to the advanced Western countries. They open India to other countries. Because there are wonderful Telugu writers. Recently, I was working on a book by B.V.S. Ramarao. Sir, he is an irrigation engineer who wrote Godavari Kadalu. He's still alive. He's in Hyderabad. There are so many wonderful. He wonderfully captures the locations and other the Godavari districts. But the outside world doesn't know that. But it is these people, as Shastriji rightly said, is the Western world. I think because the book is simultaneously published both in India and abroad also. And it was very well reviewed often. That shows that the book is becoming very popular, and Nishant is, popular already in the US. And more so, the recent trend is that, what I have been observing is that writers from other countries are enriching American literature than American writers themselves. So, Nishant, you joined that club. Because American writing has now not so rich. There are, I don't know, for whatever the reasons may be, it can be, one of the reasons can be the immigrant experience, coming away from one culture, because immigrant experience always comes with displacement, dislocation, and cutting off from the roots, etc. This provokes the spark in the writers, who are born with that spark. Because not all of them, see, the thousands of people, lakhs of people have gone to America, but not all of them become writers. Only those who have that spark. So whenever I see a young writer, a budding writer, I always remember Lord Byron. Sir, you must be knowing that poet. Lord Byron is a young poet who was a romantic writer. అంటే ఈ రైటర్స్ చిన్నప్పటి నుంచిలోనే వాళ్ళల్లో ఒక రకమైన స్పార్క్ ఉంటూ ఉంటుంది. అది ఐ డోంట్ నో ఫర్ వాట్ రీజన్, బట్ దట్ స్పార్క్, దట్ వెనెవర్ దే గెట్ ది రైట్ conducive atmosphere, that spark comes out. When I was mentioning Lord Byron, children are here, so the small anecdote I want to narrate so that children will be learn from that. Lord Byron, when he was a young kid, he joined his own grandfather's school. అంటే మన విజయ్ ప్రకాష్ గారి పిల్లలు ఇదే స్కూల్లో చదివితే ఎలా ఉంటుందో అలాగనమాట. సో and when he was a very spoiled kid, and the teachers could not dare to question him or put him in discipline, because he was the son of the school's proprietor. So he was sitting in the last bench, and often he was found sleeping when the classwork is going on. So one day the teacher was narrating them a wonderful story, an episode from the Bible. That was in 1750s. She was narrating an episode from the Bible. And it is a story about how Jesus Christ was one day giving a sermon, and all his devotees were found hungry. So there was nothing for them to eat. So he took a pot of water and asked them to serve it, and then it turned into wine, and the wine was served to the devotees there, to all the people there. So the teacher was narrating the story and was asking all the students, the young students, to write an essay or some sort of thing to describe it in their own words. So this guy was just sleeping or half sleeping, because most often it will be half sleeping. Well, he is not fully asleep. So, but the teacher didn't dare to go and ask him, what is your response? So first she collected all the papers from the rest of the students, and they all wrote a big, lengthy essay about describing how Jesus Christ has offered bread and wine to his worshippers or to his devotees, to his followers. So finally, she went and woke him up and said, see, your classmates have already given their papers. What about you? Can you say something about this at least? I will note down that. And the boy, see, that is the spark in the writer. He stood up and simply made one simple statement, which I can never forget. He simply said, the water saw its Lord and blushed. That's enough. That's the whole thing. The water saw its Lord and blushed. What is the meaning behind that one? Christ is the Lord here, and he changed the water into wine. So when the wine is always usually pink in color, or like some sort of a pinkish color, so when the water saw its Lord, see how he was narrating that one. When the water saw its Lord, it blushed. Blush అంటే కొంచెం సిగ్గుపడినప్పుడు బొగ్గులన్నీ కూడా ఎరుపెక్కుతాయి, and it became wine. So that is the spark in a writer. Nishant, I am telling you this because you are also a prodigy writer coming up like that. So writers శాస్త్రి గారు చెప్తున్నారు టు బ్రింగ్ ద హోల్ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ ఇన్ టు స్మాల్ వర్డ్స్ ఇన్ టు స్మాల్ ఫ్రేజెస్ అండ్ సెంటెన్సెస్. This is the art. This is how a writer is distinguished from other people, from all of us. So, see, for example, Byron, when he made that statement, the rest of the students were writing lengthy essays. But the poet can say in simple words. అంటే శ్రీశ్రీ గారిని చెప్పాలంటే రవి గాంచని చోట కూడా కవి గాంచుతాడు అంతే. కవి the poet can see anything. So when I was reading this first story, I was just remembering how wonderfully he was narrating the experience in a bus. Apart from the eerie things that happen in the bathroom and all that you have narrated there, but the way he is expressing, I was just remembering, just a few days back I was traveling in a bus from Bangalore to Rajahmundry, and at night time when you wake up, you also find some similar experiences. How Nishant could bring those experiences wonderfully into this short story. Shastri garu cheptunnaru, short story is very difficult to write because these days narrations have become very less in number. Narratives, manaku kavasina narratives. People don't have time for narratives. People don't have time for anything. People are always in a rush to something else. బట్ టు సిట్ బ్యాక్ అండ్ టు హ్యావ్ ఏ నెరేటివ్, అంటే నెరేటివ్ అంటే ఎవరో ఒక మనకి కథ చెప్పటమో లేదా ఏదో ఒక వాళ్ళ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ చెప్పటము. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ సమ్ టైమ్స్ ఇన్ మై చైల్డ్హుడ్ వీ యూస్ టు ట్రావెల్ ఇన్ బస్. ఈ ఆర్టీసీ బస్సులో ఎక్కినప్పుడు పక్కన కూర్చున్న వాళ్ళు ఏదో చెప్తూ ఉండేవాళ్ళు అండ్ దిగిపోయేవాళ్ళం, వాళ్ళు వెళ్ళిపోయేవాళ్ళు, వాళ్ళ జీవితం వాళ్ళు, మన జీవితం వాళ్ళు. బట్ దట్ నేరేషన్ గివ్స్ సమ్ సార్ట్ ఆఫ్ ఎ రిలీఫ్ ఫర్ దెమ్, బోత్ ఫర్ ది లిజనర్ అండ్ ఫర్ ది వన్ పర్సన్ హూ టోల్డ్ దట్, narrated that also. So narratives people live and narratives are missing. We are missing that narratives because we are brought up on those narratives from our childhood also. Grandparents ki time ledu ippudu vaalaki serials chudali, parents ki time ledu vaallu busy ga office nunchi vaallu serials chudali sayandraniki. So no narratives for the children. Children are being brought up on empty things. They don't have stories from their family, they don't have stories from their grandparents. Nothing is there. So at that time a narrative, a book of short stories is something, it's like a desert మీద వర్షం పడినటువంటిది అనమాట ఒక రకంగా చెప్పాలంటే. ఎందుకంటే without that today we are missing those narratives. I heartily congratulate Nishant for writing stories because this is what the present world is missing. Narration. To narrate your experiences. The best possible experience, I think Nishant has long way to go to narrate many best possible experiences. This is only the beginning. And this morning when I met him, I asked how it happened that you became a writer, because all these young generation are looking for something else, for riches, for some glamorous things. But to write, as Shastriji was saying, పరుగెడుతున్నట్టు మన జీవితంలో ఆగి వెనక ఒక స్టెప్ వెనక ఆగాలి. రైటింగ్ చేయాలంటే ఒక స్టెప్ ఆగాలి, ఆగి, because you have to meditate on things and then write. It is not a creativity, is not a small thing, it is not very easy. అందుకే పరిగెత్తేటువంటి జీవితంలో అందరూ పరిగెడుతుంటారు, బహుశా వాళ్ళ క్లాస్మేట్స్, ఫ్రెండ్స్ అందరూ పరిగెడుతున్నారు లైఫ్లో. పరిగెడుతున్నారంటే నాట్ లిటరల్లీ బట్ మేబీ ఫర్ సమ్ అదర్ థింగ్స్, for pursuing their ambitions or in pursuit of some professions, etc. But to write, you have to sit back, you have to stop, you have to take a pause and then sit and meditate and then write. So poets, as Shelley has said, are the unacknowledged legislators of the world. They are the people who make the legislations, not the people, they are not the MPs and the MLAs that sit in the parliament houses. Remember, all our great national leaders are all great writers or literary connoisseurs. Take from Mahatma Gandhi to Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, all of them read literature. And they are made such great leaders because of reading literature. I call upon these young people, these young students of this Sri Prakash school, reading, make a habit of reading. Get any book, short stories, poems, write anything. Wonderful literature is there. I am sure your school library must be providing so many books. My generation is brought up on Chandamama stories. Wonderful short stories in Telugu or English. How wonderfully they are written. They fire your imagination. They open up your minds you have a different world to address in that one. So I heartfully congratulate Nishant for bringing out this wonderful book, and more Vijay Prakash Garu for launching this book and giving a wonderful experience to these kids, because tomorrow when Nishant becomes a celebrity, maybe the students will remember the day that this book was launched in their school and they had that experience. Because many of these immigrant writers' experiences have become into films also. I think Aishwarya Rai has acted in one of the films written by, stories written by Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni. I don't remember the movie, but it was made into a movie. One of her novels. So many of the experiences, these immigrant experiences, are now becoming either TV serials or a TV, some sort of a series or even films also. So I look forward that Nishant's book will also come in both in visual media also, not only in the print media, but even into visual media. And thank you for giving me this wonderful opportunity to share a few experiences with the students. Thank you very much.
Ramesh ji, you have wonderfully highlighted the style by comparing him with the current short story writers. At the same time, the way you motivated this young genius to reach enviable heights in future. And Dr. Ramesh is a walking encyclopedia of literature. And his judgment carries a lot of weight. We thank you, Dr. Ramesh, for sharing your valuable opinions on the book and the great blessings you have given the child. And now, I just want to say only one thing about this great man. Take a look at his face. He looks like a pregnant river, hiding so many things in its journey, depositing it into an ocean of books. Yes, without taking much time, I now request Dr. the father of this young genius, Raman Rao, to please come and share his, his contribution to the child, because today he has become an enviable father to all of us. Not that we all want our children to become writers, but the way he nurtured the child, the way he allowed the child to nurture itself, that's really great. We try to protect our child and insulate him against the influences of the outside world, calling them temptations. But not every temptation is worth resisting. So I would like to ask the secret of producing this prodigy. Thank you.
Thank you, Shastri Garu, for your kind words about me. Let me thank Vijay Prakash for conducting this book launch event here in Synergy International. That Nishant was coming to India, and we were having a launch event being conducted by Sahitya Academy, Government of Telangana at Hyderabad in Ravindra Bharati. Vijay Prakash immediately, the very next second, he said, "Sir, let me have the event first time in Andhra Pradesh in my school, Synergy International School." I think you have a wonderful, wonderful director in the form of Vijay Prakash, because he has shown such kind of commitment, such kind of dedication, particularly to the cause of education, and at the same time to bring somebody in front of you, to show him to you, so that you could get some kind of inspiration from them. That's the trait. That's the trait we wish every correspondent should have, every director should have, and that Vijay Prakash has in abundance. Shastri Garu, he said, "Echo of my soul, true." In both Telugu states, rendu Telugu rashtraలలో, if I have to say, sir, who is the best teacher in English? Whom do you consider as the best teacher in English? If somebody asks me that question, nannavare prashna adigite, from both Telugu states. But I take Shastriji's name at number one place. I know his caliber. I know his caliber. ఆయన ఏం చెప్పినా, whatever that he teaches not with his just brain, intellect. He teaches with his heart. హృదయంతో చెప్తాడు ఆయన ఏం చెప్పినా. He inspires students, yes, that you can never imagine otherwise. That is his commitment, that is his passion for this teaching profession. Amidst of them, a book of letters, a short story collection that is being launched. That itself is a praiseworthy one. And particularly Nishant's book getting launched here, I am more than happy. I must say, I am really privileged to have participated here, to have come here, to be a part of this great event. Shastri Garu, ఎట్లా తయారయ్యాడు నిశాంత్ అనేది ఒక మాట అన్నారు. హౌ యూ ప్రొడ్యూస్ దిస్ ప్రాడిజీ అని అన్నారు. చిల్డ్రన్, ఇన్ఫ్యాక్ట్ ఐ డింట్ క్రియేట్ దిస్ ప్రాడిజీ. ఇన్ఫ్యాక్ట్ ఐ ట్రైడ్ టు స్పాయిల్ హిమ్. చెడగొట్టడం కోసం బాగానే ప్రయత్నం చేశాను నేను. మరి చెడిపోయినట్లు లేడు. దట్ ఈస్ ద ప్రాబ్లం. ఎట్లా అంటారేమో, రైట్ ఫ్రమ్ 6th class onwards, I started IIT Foundation. It's my dream. IIT Foundation, ఎట్లయినా సరే IIT కదా. అందుకని I pushed him into IIT Foundation course, I think, in 6th class. Maybe, I don't know, to satisfy me, maybe he didn't realize his inner vocation at that time. He studied hard. He wrote that IIT Ramaya's entrance test. He cracked the examination, got a seat, and joined at IIT's Ramaya's coaching institute. And later on, he tried IIT. Because he couldn't get through that cutoff mark in physics, though he got good marks in mathematics, he could not get into IIT. So he went into MIT University, Delhi, to study again computer science in his BTech course. From then, he tried for various universities in US. He got a seat in Harvard. He got a seat in Columbia. He got a seat in UPenn. He got a seat in so many other universities also, in Pittsburgh University. He chose UPenn and studied his MS in computer science. And what was I telling all these years? No, you should get a doctorate in computer science. You should read more. You should create something. That's what I was telling him. But never did I realize that he would turn this way. I knew he would love reading stories. He read stories. He, like all you people, he read Emmett Blyton, he read Harry Potter, he read Roald Dahl, he read particularly Ruskin Bond. Yeah, he loved Ruskin Bond quite very much. On an excursion trip, he went to see him and got a copy signed from him. That's all he was doing. But I didn't realize I was just pushing him only in this direction. He joined a job, Chicago Tribune. From there, maybe I don't know what happened. He would tell you something within him cracked and he turned into writing. He left his job, resigned his job, and went for MFA, Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing. That he did on his own. That decision to resign, to go for MFA in Creative Writing, he did on his own. Only thing I did was, yes, okay, you go ahead. Just I supported that move, that's all. I did nothing more than that. And afterwards, he completed his MFA, and you knew now this was the result. He had a story collection. So, children, and I don't take much time because they would be talking about the book, and Nishant would be talking to you. Believe in yourself. Follow your passion. మీరు ఏది నమ్మితే దాన్ని ఫాలో కండి. అంతేగాని don't get influenced by what you see outside, what influence you from outside. What that matters is your inner calling, your inner vocation. అది ఇంపార్టెంట్. నువ్వేం నమ్ముతున్నావు, what you believe in yourself, that's the important thing. You follow it. And I believe every child is unique. As a teacher, I believe that every child has potential in some form or other, in some way or other. Only thing is how you are going to make it realize. That's the problem. ఎట్లా దాన్ని చూస్తాము అనేది సమస్య. కానీ పుట్టిన ప్రతి ప్రాణి ప్రత్యేకమైనదే. ప్రతి బిడ్డ ప్రత్యేకమైన వాడే. ఎవ్రీ చైల్డ్ ఈజ్ స్పెషల్. దట్ ఈజ్ వాట్ ఐ బిలీవ్. ఎట్లా, ఇన్ వాట్ వే, ఇన్ వాట్ ఫామ్ అది చూస్తాము అనేది మనకు తెలియదు. వీ డోంట్ నో. అది రియలైజ్ కావటానికి ఎవ్రీ చైల్డ్ హ్యాస్ టు వర్క్ హార్డ్, బిలీవ్ ఇన్ హిజ్ ఓన్ వర్త్, pursue his own dream, pursue his own passion and reach that goal. అది చేరుకోవాలి. అదొక్కటే నేను కోరుకునేది. I hope that Nishant would provide such kind of inspiration today to all of you so that you would realize in course of time your goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ramanji, for giving out the secret of bringing up children is not to bring them up, to let them grow, so that they choose their own path, sometimes by falling in love with, and sometimes by walking in and walking out of crisscross roads, finally treading on their highways. Do not believe all the epithets. To that extent only believe what he said about his son. But what all he said about me is nothing but just love in words. Love usually is unreasonable and irrational. I don't stand the height that he tried to grow me to, because I feel I have a vertigo. I feel a kind of reeling sensation. Thank you. And now I request the director Vijay Prakash to say something about this wonderful gentleman.
Namaste everyone. Sorry, I have a bad throat today. One thing I should really say, I'm just directly going about Ramana Rao Garu's bringing up his child. I don't know whether he spoiled his child in putting up his aspirations on Nishant or not. But one thing what I can say is, he's an voracious reader. He himself, I think, whatever book comes his way, he might have completed that. That's what I know about him. I think that made Nishant read more books, perhaps. I don't know, but that's what I am assuming. And I think as parents, we should try to do what all we are trying to tell our children. That's what I believe in. So, if you want your children to do well, you should also try to do that well. So one thing I want to talk about 3 events in my life regarding books. One thing what the first and I think this is the second book launch what I am participating. The first book launch is with Raman Rao Garu, as we both went to the book launch of our past president Sri Abdul Kalam Garu, Squaring the Circle. That was that was my first book launch which I attended. As Ramesh Garu was mentioning, it was in a 5-star hotel. And of course the audience were only I think 150 or 200. Of course it was the elite of Hyderabad, and we both were together in that. In fact, Ramana Rao gave me the opportunity to go there. That was one thing. And second thing was, as Nishant sir was mentioning about Nishant going to Mussoorie and having a autograph of Ruskin Bond. I want to share one story of our student Sneha Deepti. Sneha Deepti has come into this school in 9th grade or 8th grade. She came from some other school, and she was actually into that IIT Foundation, pushed into IIT Foundation, and she couldn't go through all that. And she went into depression. She couldn't complete all that, exams and all that. And she went to depression, and she was hospitalized for a few months. And later on, she had to change the school. She came into this school, Synergy School, Pedapuram, and every day she used to write poems on whatever she found. And every day that poem was actually brought onto the dais, and she was reading out the poem, and she was like a celebrity in the school. So within a few months, like, she became very overjoyed and very happy. As father came to me, his father was an IES officer, and father came to me and congratulated me for that. Said, "Sir, my daughter, I'm able to see her smile." That was what, and in the end of the year, he came out with a book and showed it to me that, "So this is the palette of poems, what I want to release it in our school anniversary." I said, "No, I'm not releasing it, it's anniversary, please keep it aside. We'll do it at some other date." He was thinking that I'm not interested. I'm not interested in releasing that book in this thing, and he got a little bit annoyed and all that. So one day I called him and said, "Sir, we are going to Mussoorie this year's yatra, we call it yatra, the educational tour is to Mussoorie, and we got an appointment with Ruskin Bond, and he is going to launch this book." That was what the second book launch what I participated in. Ruskin Bond has come out with a group of our students, and in presence of him, he launched, in presence of all our students who went to that yatra, he launched that book. And one more event where an author was participating in our school's function was Chetan Bhagat. After Chetan Bhagat has written 5 Point Someone, it has come out as a movie. It is just being released. And then we invited him as a guest for our campus. He even came to this campus also. He visited all our Sri Prakash campuses, and we had very nice time with him, understanding the actual intricacies of being an author. And today, he is the most celebrated author, and I believe that he has brought a lot of reading into this generation's this thing. Definitely with his style of functioning and style of writing. And now he is writing very good columns on India, and he is now into political this thing also. So when you see Nishant's writing, I think the core, right from the morning I was just trying to interact with him. In fact, very close observer. He's only just listening. What all we are all speaking a lot of nonsense and lot of issues and all that. He's slowly observing, and Sarsi sir has made a nice comment. He is gathering material for his next book. I don't know, but still, he's a close observer. He is not interacting too much, but still, very much, he's there, like smiling at whenever required and observing things, what are happening, listening to everyone's talk. He's very much present, but with a detachment. And his style of writing, I think, makes us very close, because you feel that you are in that book. It's your story. It's like you are there. As Ramesh sir was mentioning, I traveled in a bus, and I was really very close to that. That is, I think, that style, I think, makes him a better author. And as I wanted to, actually, what I wanted to talk only is this point. Ramesh sir has already mentioned that. Tomorrow, when Nishant's book has come into movie, or he becomes popular, or he is, suppose you can have a, what you call, area where this is Nishant's literature. That's what will happen, that's what we are assuming. And I think wherever you are in this world, you will be just thinking, okay, whenever Nishant's new book comes out, okay, we participated in that book launch. I think that is what you should all be ready for. This is what we are assuming, Nishant. Definitely this is going to happen, and we wish that with all our hearts that this will happen. And you, my friend, to the people on the dais, we have a culture in this school that every teacher should be reading at least 3 books. That is mandatory, and every student, we give them a list of 20 books where they should be coming out with reviews of that also. And one who completes the highest number of books will be given an award called Smart Shakespeare. It's not the number one, it's anyone. Anyone can do that. It's not only one. So we believe in that. So this is what I think what you are trying to do. You will be thinking, what are we going to do from reading these books and all that. I think the pleasure of enjoying the narration, I think that is what I think we should all be trying to get it out. It's not just the marks what we get from reading a textbook. I think the pleasure of that narration will take you to the next level. Thank you very much. And thanks for Raman Rao Garu and Nishant for being here in such a remote place. And we are very privileged to launch this book. I hope you all must be knowing that this book is launched in Delhi, Hyderabad, Bhubaneswar, Khammam, and Pedapuram. We are privileged to be a part of this wonderful event, and we wish that every book of yours will be privileged to launch the future books also. Thank you.
Thank you, Vijay. Right from the beginning, I've been watching Vijay swallowing every word from Raman Rao, because Vijay's son is now going to choose his own career. And one of the traits of Sri Prakash is to provide a wonderful ambience. The true definition of an academic institution. Today, unfortunately, other things are outbalanced by academic stuff. Parents also, as quite often happens, they look for the digital performance of the child, numerical performance. And the graduate teachers over marks, it's not an uncommon scene in any school. But what I found in Sri Prakash, just now, the director is talking about the celebrities brought into this school. Not only this school, into every campus. The way the innate talents of the child are brought out, the way the child is recognized, what looks like a distraction today might one day become a concept or a thing of which the whole world will be proud of. Like Edison trying to sit upon an egg and spoiled his back. And when asked why he was trying to do that, he said he was trying to hatch the egg. And finally brought in more than 250 inventions. So thank you, Vijay Prakash ji, for shaping the futures of thousands of students by starting a wonderful institution. The other institutions might be greater in the sense of providing accommodation or advertising in flyers, but they never light up the flare in the child. So thank you. We are all proud of associating ourselves in every activity, in every useful activity, and thank you for roping us all in and making our time worthwhile. So with these few remarks, if Nishant permits me, trying to decipher a kind of literary postmortem, which I indulged in, if not involved. This is a beautiful book of around 210 pages. That this book was published by publishers not less than Penguins and HarperCollins itself speaks volumes about its worth. Not merely in terms of its commercial value, but in terms of its healthy consumption. And this book contains, as usual, the title of this book is not a chosen title. This is, interestingly, the title of the last of the 11 stories that the writer has put into this book. And generally, one gets a doubt after reading this book. Nishant, with such a potential, why did he choose upon such a tough path of writing a short story? Because every sentence here is so condensed that unless you have the experience enough to dilute it and take it into your experience, you can't easily in the literary world unless he has a superpower to speak out things which only a man of 80 or 90 can say at the end of his life. Now, I will reserve a few questions to Mr. Nishant, at the end of the presentation. But for the time being, I won't take much time to introduce some of the short stories to you. The first thing I'd like to talk to you about is there is something autobiographical in the book, as rightly pointed out by Dr. Ramesh. The nostalgia. What makes these writers suddenly start writing, leaving aside their main assignments like software industry? What is it that grows in them? As he rightly says in one of his stories, time and distance sometimes make things look new and look interesting and important. The things which you do not recognize when they are with you, they become invaluable when you are away from them. True, we all feel it. But the way he felt it, and making his feelings our feelings, the way he caught the central vein of his readers and chose a style and a language that is unique, hitherto never explored or exploited, that makes this man really worthy to be talked about. So, definitely, I'm sure you won't deny that something of your childhood, something of the school days, something of his friends, his own members of the family, the sweet and bitter experiences he passed through in life, he has wonderfully injected into his characters. And sometimes he is a third person narrator, sometimes he assumes the role of a first person himself and describes things in a way as if he were just standing beside you and talking to you word for word, sometimes alerting you, hey, listen, you cannot escape here. That is what you feel when you read his stories. As rightly I said, this book interests both the Indians as well as the non-Indians. Indians, for seeing their own face reflected in a mirror of a book. For the Americans, to understand the true picture of India, which has always been an enigma to them. What is India? What is their lifestyle? What is the kind of culture? What is the value system? Though he was not talking much about the customs in India, but the characters, their mindsets. Especially, he says, the maths teacher in a father is very difficult to be satisfied. Are very unique according to his observation, and you cannot help accepting that because, by the way, calculations go into everything from ice cream to purchasing a house. And you cannot save those teachers. That's the problem with them. And every character is not a new one brought into the book. You have seen him somewhere in your neighborhood, somewhere in your family, somewhere in your own husbands and wives, perhaps in yourself also. Could be possible. That is the art of convincing the readers and baiting them to go on and on and on until they fall to him. This is what I've seen. I'm not going much deep into the book, but most of his experience are typically Indian. That's one of the reasons. His experiences and his language he has chosen also are typically Indian. For example, a housewife says, what does a black cat do to a house that already has your father in it? Which housewife has not said it about her husband? We say it often. But how beautifully, like Narayan once again, saying, how much? Says the Tangawala. And he asks the Tangawala how much. And the man says, master's will. The word master's will takes years of our experience to compress it into those words. The way he compressed experience into words, really. One more expression which we all feel, but the way he put it into words, మనందరం చక్కగా మాట్లాడతాం, తెలుగొచ్చు. అదే నేను మీకు అన్నాను, వాట్ ఈజ్ మోస్ట్ ఆఫెన్ ఫెల్ట్ బట్ నెవర్ సో వెల్ ఎక్స్ప్రెస్డ్ అని. కానీ దీన్ని ఇంగ్లీష్లో ఎలా అంటారు? నాకు మనసు బాగాలేదు. దీన్ని ఎలా అంటారు? ఎవడో వచ్చి నన్ను అడుగుతాడు అప్పుడప్పుడు కాలేజీలో, సార్ నేను ఇవాళ మనసు బాగాలేదు సార్, నేను బాగుండలేదు సార్, ఐఎమ్ నాట్ మై సెల్ఫ్ అంటే సరిపోతుందా అది? కానీ ద వే హీ హ్యాస్ thrown, he has sprinkled English upon Telugu and introduced it as the most appropriate expression and laid the roads for the next generation to choose, to can't but choose this sentence to express this idea. So in that way, Nishant is great. Not merely in terms of the experience, but in terms of presenting the experience in a tangible, in an experiential, in a personal fashion. He held his hands to all back with me. ముసలి వాళ్ళని సాధారణంగా చూస్తుంటాం, కనపడకపోతే చెయ్యిలా పెట్టుకొని చూస్తుంటారు కదా, దాన్ని ఎలా అంటాం అంటే, ఇక్కడ కూడా ఇండియనిజం ఉంది. బహుశా అమెరికాలో కూడా ఇలా చూస్తారేమో నాకు తెలియదు కానీ, but the way he projected that idea, ఎంత బ్యూటిఫుల్ చెప్పండి. He held his hand to his eyebrows to shut out the sun and looked at her. He's talking about an old man. And ఇంకో చోట చెప్తాడు, it is to one of the child in the family invites a white boy for a lunch. White boys, as you all aware, they don't like spicy things. And there is a big discussion in the family what to prepare for the child who's coming. And then one of the members says, this is too spicy. White boy will die and his parents will sue us. That's what he said. This is too spicy. The white boy will die. అమ్మో చస్తా ఉంటాం కదా, మనం చచ్చిపోయా ఉంటాం కదా, దాన్ని యాజ్ ఇట్ ఈస్గా ఆ ప్రజెంట్ చేయటం అనేది ఇది మేబీ that's what I said. We love it because we meet what we have felt. Americans or Westerners love it because they are introduced to an expression which is perhaps out of their life experience. They never say that. They just say it's too spicy. But I'm afraid whether they would say he would die. It's too spicy that it would kill him. They won't say that. So these are very interesting expressions. And the wife early in the morning says to the husband, no need for sarcasm so early in the morning. To a husband who tries to comment about the breakfast or something, no need for early sarcasm in the morning. Don't start the day with your sarcasm. Enough is enough. Thank you. You better be silent so that the curry or the breakfast which I am preparing will not become worse. So that's a kind of a thing. And ఇంకో చోట చెప్తాడు, there is a rich landlord or zamindar who had the luxury of getting his earwax removed by his servants. And when this was introduced to the lady, Leela, a maid will clean his earwax. The moment he said Leela, a maid will clear his earwax, mother continued to grate carrots in the lamplight, and she said, what a rich sloth. Sloth is laziness. What a rich sloth, she said. What a beautiful way of saying that. బద్ధకంలో కూడా ఇంత డబ్బున్న ఒక బద్ధకం ఎక్కడైనా ఉంటుందా అని మనం అంటాం సాధారణంగా. ఎంత బ్యూటిఫుల్గా ఆ ఎక్స్ప్రెషన్స్ చూస్తుంటే, ఇంతకన్నా దీన్ని కంప్రెస్డ్గా, ఇంతకన్నా దీన్ని అందంగా చెప్పడం ఎవరి తరం కాదేమో అనిపిస్తుంది. అది గ్రేట్నెస్. Psychological insights, that's really great. When he draws the character of Zamindar who fights with his daughter and then returns to his village to pass the rest of his life, and the art pieces that he brings with him, especially the telephone which was new to the village, after all the turmoil, the mother and the daughter, they go and search for the watch at somewhere else and they failed to find it. And at last, the watch was found only in some corner of the bed of the zamindar, who, with least regret, just leaves the village the moment his son-in-law and daughter, they come. And the character of this man, the little bit of love, the human side of him, at the same time, the inhuman side of the zamindar. We are all hodgepodges of good and evil in us. We are not absolute personalities. But the way he blended both the qualities and designed the character, that shows the psychological insight, especially the child's innocent questions. The way she projects her relationship with the zamindar to all the people. All these things are really touching. And there are so many things. Then after the psychological insights, I'd like to draw your attention to the next thing. That is tangible experience. I said all the time I'm using. A tangible experience is experience which you feel like somebody touching and telling you. A girl, the moment he sees some boys paying attention to her, she says, a 10th class girl or 8th class girl who has recently stepped into girlhood, perhaps, she says, I tucked a strain of hair behind my ear loosely enough that I can do it again and again, tilting my head at an angle in which my nose can be viewed and not thought ugly. She had a problem with the nose. At the moment she saw the boys, she doesn't want to look straight into the boys' eyes. She doesn't want to be seen that she was looking, but she wanted them to look into. And so she was trying to tuck her hair behind the ears in such a way that it should fall back again. And she should adjust it again. At the same time, boys should not think that she was looking at them, but that is the way. See his careful observation. A very, very dangerous boy. So as a schoolboy, he was more engaged in watching. See, this is the problem. What we gather, where we gather, why we gather is not important. When the moment comes, he has a magic wand with which he touches and everything comes back more alive than when it was. That is the greatness. That's why I told Ramana in the morning. And that was the problem with Vijay, who was raising, what is this boy doing? Why is he silent? It doesn't mean that he is reticent, that he is short of words. In fact, he has more words than you and I. But he knows how to word his experience. And he knows how to capture that experience, compress it into a microcosm and enlarge it to proportions beyond your belief and presenting it in an acceptable fashion, in a palatable fashion. That is great. So there is nothing that escapes his view. He has a wonderful camera in his eye. And he retrieves anything that happened anytime. That's what I love about this guy. The girl, when she is talking, she snaps a bougainvillea flower and smells it, takes apart the petals and says, you know, we are still in school. He could have said it, but why picking a bougainvillea flower and then splitting the leaves with the petals? This shows that is the usual practice girls do. Sometimes we do things without knowing why we are doing. It's a kind of, your hands cannot be at rest. So you'd be doing something irrelevant, but it has a relevance there. But that's the observation. I don't know whether he imposed the observation upon the girl or whether he saw some girls doing it. But the way he presented it makes everybody believe that this cannot be other than an Indian girl, a schoolgirl, a typical Indian schoolgirl. They have not changed, gentlemen, since the days you studied till this day. And they will not change, I assure you. And thank you for guiding them how to be. If not how to be, how not to be. Right. And he used a lot of similes and metaphors, comparisons, to make the experience realistic. At one place he said, ocean of sleep. What a great idea. It is this word I borrowed and was tempted to say, This man is a pregnant river. Where he said ocean of sleep, I used the word. You tempted me to twist language to my convenience. With your permission, let me say that. So poets are very, very dangerous. And I'm using the word poet very consciously because there is another question which I would like to ask him. You should have written a lot of poetry. Otherwise, this book is full of poetry. No doubt about it. Every sentence I say has a poetic twist in it, has something unconventional in it, has something peculiar, something touching. Wow! The way he said it is more interesting than the experience itself. Sometimes the packing matters more than the content. So that is the way. I wonder where you learned this. Perhaps this could have been the reason the Amazon people have preferred. The way you packed the experience into a book, into a short story, into a sentence, into a word. These are not small things. He's dribbled the man. భగవద్గీతలో చెప్పినట్టు మనందరం కూడా సంస్కారాలతో జన్మిస్తాం. అవి రైట్ టైం వచ్చినప్పుడు సర్ఫేస్ అవుతాయి. అయ్యేదాకా మనం పేషెంట్గా ఉండాలే తప్ప గొప్ప గొప్ప వేమన లాంటి వాళ్ళు వీళ్ళందరూ కూడా పువ్వు పుట్టినతోనే పరిమళించునని చిన్నప్పుడు మనకు కొటేషన్ చూడండి. ఇవన్నీ తూచి. ఇట్స్ నాట్ ట్రూ విత్ ఎవ్రీబాడీ. The bud takes its, the plant takes its own time to bud. The bud its own time to bloom, and the bloom to its fragrance and back to its fruit. So it takes its own time. The time has come to this man. And with regard to Mother Teresa, they say, one fine morning, she said, I had a calling. She said, what is that? No, I'm not the person who fit into these closed, convents. Convent is not the word in your sense. Convent is a nunnery. So this is not the place I was born for. She wanted to escape out of it, and she came to Calcutta and selected the area where she had business to do. And she became the mother for the whole world. Similarly, this man was born for a different task. And all the other areas, results of what Raman Rao has said, attempts to spoil the child. And finally, the child restored to himself. Thank you, and thank God, you have become a more useful product to the world than what your father would have thought of trying to design or trying to prepare your own roadmap. So, ఇందాక చెప్తున్నాను మీకు, Paddy felt his chest tap like a woodpecker. Do you ever feel your chest tap like a woodpecker? So the way he said it is really great. And practical definitions and proverbs, he used a number of definitions and proverbs in his books because he, as rightly pointed out by Ramesh Garu, I cannot help, I have a great admiration for this man. He said, no, poets are unacknowledged legislators, he said. When you condense your experience into a word, it becomes a proverb. Proverbs did not fall from heaven. They came out of the experience. When the Bible says, as you sow, so you reap. Dost thou what, dost thou returnest? These are not prepared by somebody, neither Paul nor Matthew. But these are the things, when experience condenses into words, it cannot help but choose the right word. Until that, you struggle, and you find that right word into which you can inject this experience and you make that word live. You pick an ordinary thing and you inject meaning into that word and make it your word, and that word gets coined in a new way. That's what the idea. As we change our bodies, so do words change their meanings in the hands of their creators, the great writers. So, sometimes, he rushed very fast, like anaphoric expressions. But then he had graduated, found a job, bought a deodorant, hit the gym, scrubbed his privates, shaved on time, and ironed his shirt, spiked his hair, dressed nice, and then like this he went on talking very quickly. How, like it was a sentence, anaphoric sentence as we talk about Alexander the Great. He came, saw, and conquered, they said. Something like that we see. Practical wisdom, I said. For example, look at it. Some people broadcast their stories demanding to be heard. We all see them. They broadcast their stories, irrespective of your interest. They go on telling us. And he could not help using his computer, vocabulary or idiom or cliche, let me say. He said, if a bug got resolved in the first attempt to fix it, the fix was likely incorrect, he says. Similarly, this was true of both programming errors and parenting errors. Maybe a lesson for you. So, do not expect things that they are fixed. If it got fixed, so think about it. This might be a loose fixation and might once again call for a proper fixation. That's what he said. And somewhere else he says, this is one of the wonderful sentences. Like, home is a recognition of the lives we led together once. If you return to your home, no? I was very personally connected to this. As soon as my father passed away, we left our home. People said, you should quit this house for 12 months. We left it and took a house somewhere 2 lanes away. And after 12 months, after the initial rituals were over, we returned to our home. And that is what I felt. And by the time we returned, it was almost dilapidated and it was ready to collapse. And the people who lived with us 12 months ago, my own brother and my own sister, they were no more. The 12 months have brought a great change. The house was no longer a building for us. It was an image. It was an experience. It was something of my own. A concrete form of something I lived. Something which I treasure. To retrieve my past once again. To be one with it. That is what he says. Home is a recognition of lives we led together, the things that we knew of. It is the sound of the river that runs in our veins, he says. It's the sound of the rivers that run in our veins. Kya baat hai, gentlemen? What a beautiful sentence. It's the sound of the rivers that run in our veins. That is our home. People foolishly sometimes ask me, what is a home and a house? This is a wonderful definition, perhaps. It was not just accommodation. ఎంత అనుభవాన్ని రంగరించి కండెన్స్ చేస్తే ఈ సెంటెన్సెస్ వస్తాయి. Can anyone resist the temptation of falling in love with the style, if not the writer? The style. We all fell to you, gentlemen. The way he said it, really. As soon as he returned home after 2 years, he says, their faces are still glowing, and I wonder if love is a candle lit by distance. Who has not experienced it? Love is a candle lit by distance. We all loved at some point of time in our lives. It is the distance that lends enchantment. So love is lit by distance, not by proximity. We know what proximity has brought. Every married person knows it. But the way, how sometimes distance lends light to the sight. That's really a wonderful way. If language is a city, mine is crumbling block by block, he says. What a wonderful expression. Because he stopped using his language in a foreign land. And if language were a city, mine is crumbling block by block. I don't know whether it was only an expression. Next time when Mr. Nishant speaks, you can understand to what extent the language he speaks is intact. We request you to speak in Telugu. See, here language is not vocabulary or words. Language is experience. Language is life. Language is your mother. Language is the breath of your soul. Let me say. It's the breath of your soul. And that began crumbling. Take language beyond the dictionary definition. Then you will understand. And that's what I mean. To understand this book to the fullest depth, we require to blend it with our experience to extract the best of it. Picturesque description. Father, I said, never, let a man. The mother tells her daughter, because she was cheated in life by her husband. When the daughter comes back home in the last moments of the mother's life and says that she is in love with a man, and the man has insured her life with all love and affection, the mother says, never let a man insure you. Because, in other words, he is planning to collect it after your death. So he will see your end much before his. That's what they say. She says, out of her own frustration in life, perhaps. Yeah. And then, sometime he says, wickedness has no age. When you are talking about your zamindar, you said, wickedness has no age. What a wonderful statement. And the mother says, don't give a child too many compliments. We all listen to these sentences. My father used to prevent my mother. Whenever I brought a prize home, she was trying to showcase it to all the people. So, my father used to say, don't try, that brings his fall. Don't try to give him too many compliments. That's what and I recollected that word. And this is a very interesting aspect. Picturesque description, I was saying. A description which cannot but create a moving celluloid in front of you. Here is a resolute old man who does not want to change his house. The house in which he lost his son and his daughter-in-law, he still wanted to remain there. So, when he was resolute, the first cousin touched him on the shoulder. Let me take the baby, he said. Tata shook his head. Get me a nail and a hammer. He did not leave the baby, and he wanted to fix something. He said, get me a nail and a hammer. And then the next one says, it's not auspicious to start living in a new house. The second cousin said, it has not even been a month since her body turned to ashes. They were trying to convince the old man. And the old man only said, where is my hammer? See the style. The man did not dispute with those people because it's meaningless to talk to them. They are still at the peripheral levels. But he was resolute that his home is the place where his son and the daughter are living more than when they lived. He did not want his bonding to break. So he only said, where is my hammer? The brother said, enough, let's go back. Please go back. And then the man said, you go back. I'll stay here with my son. He said. So these words, when you see, you cannot but imagine the resoluteness in old people. They will not change easily. And the meaningful resoluteness, that's very important. The pertinent, that's right. And then, his stories often move back and forth. He doesn't run the story as a story. He takes occasional deviations. And these deviations are so deviating that sometimes you get carried away by them and suddenly he returns to the main story and makes you aware this is not your mainstay. Like the Upakhyanas in the Mahabharata, which my friend was quoting. So Upakhyanas should not become the mainstay. So he takes occasional deviations. That's also there. And repetition is another technique this gentleman has used. I never saw this. So far, though I have read, perhaps I cannot number them, but never did I see the same paragraph repeated 3 times with a slight change. He just wanted to show as time grows, your attachment decreases because a kind of routine takes place. Especially when the child returns from abroad. On the first 2 days, the treatment is different. But the third day, it falls into routine, which the child doesn't like. This is not what he came for. He wanted every moment to be charged so that this charge he can use when he goes back. But when life comes to a routine thing, slowly he feels like the world is going round, the globe is moving round. Experiences become already lived. We are not living anything new. Today seems like yesterday. There isn't much change. The same curry, the same wife, the same talk, the same conversation, same anger. What is the fun of living a life? That kind of a feeling we get. And that is, he has beautifully brought out. You can see it on page number 149, 3 paragraphs. He says, I've been working in the Chicago Tribune for about a year when it strikes me that I'll go home in 6 months. When he was for 1 year, he started thinking about going home 6 months earlier. So when he's, just like we children know, when is Sunday, how far is Sunday away? How far is Diwali away? We start marking the number of days and striking them every day. We are 2 days away, 1 day away, 1 hour away, etc. So this is what I see. In the next paragraph, he says the same thing. I've been working for Chicago Tribune for about 2 years when it strikes me that I'll go home in 5 months. When it is 2 years, the 6 months has become 5 months. Only when he was 5 months away, then he remembered, oh, I should go home, no? Right. So his, expectation about going home, that has come down. And the next paragraph, same paragraph, he says, I've been working for Chicago Tribune for 4 years when it strikes me that I'll go home in 3 months, he says. See, this is the thing. The expectation which started 6 months before has now come down to 3 months, and finally 2 months when the time spent was 5 years. By this you can understand how people get used to things. మనందరం మన మొహాలు కావాలనుకొని మనం ఎప్పుడు క్రియేట్ చేసుకోలేదు, ఎవడో ఇచ్చాడు. మనందరం గ్రడ్జ్ చేసుకుంటూనే ఉంటాం. నేను కూడా చాలాసార్లు అనుకుంటాను నా ముక్కు బాగుండదని. కానీ స్లోగా వీ కమ్ టు టర్మ్స్ విత్ వాట్ ఇట్ ఈస్. ఆల్ ది చాయిసెస్ దట్ వీ హ్యావ్ ఇన్ లైఫ్, దే ఆర్ నాట్ సెల్ఫ్ మేడ్ చాయిసెస్. మెనీ ఆఫ్ దెమ్ ఆర్ ఇంపోజ్డ్. అందుకనే అన్నారు మ్యారేజెస్ ఆర్ మేడ్ ఇన్ హెవెన్ అండ్ సో యు ఆర్ హెల్ప్లెస్. Accept it as it is. Not only marriages, this is true with everything in life. అంటే నేనేదో ఫ్యాటలిస్ట్ అని అనుకోకండి. ఇదంతా నేను ట్రై చేసుకున్నాను, ఇది నా వల్ల వచ్చింది అని ఎప్పుడు అనుకుంటామంటే సక్సెస్ వచ్చినప్పుడు. ఫెయిల్యూర్ వచ్చినప్పుడు సాధారణంగా వాడిని వీడిని అట్రిబ్యూట్ చేస్తాం తప్ప మనం అనుకోము. సో ఇక్కడ నాకు అది కనిపిస్తుంది అనమాట. ద వే పీపుల్ స్లోలీ రిటర్న్ టు అడ్జస్ట్మెంట్ ఇన్ ద గివెన్ సెనారియో. What is the fun of blaming it? Anyway, it is our funeral. Let us try to get used to it. This is not something that you cannot escape. What is the use of living a life grudging every day with your own tools? That's the kind of a thing. One of the techniques of short story, తెలుగులో చాలా కాల క్రితం నేను ఒక స్టోరీ చదివాను. అందులో ఒక హీరోయిన్ కోసం ఎదురు చూస్తూ ఉంటాడు. ఆ మధ్యలో ఒక ఈగ వచ్చి పైన వాలుతుంది. ఆ వాలిన ఈగని 2 పారాగ్రాఫ్లో వర్ణించాడు. Why the fly has come, what was it doing with its antenna, and how it was trying to brush up herself, and what should have been in the mind of that fly, whether it was a male or female. She too must be waiting for her girlfriend who has promised a rendezvous here, and how she was waiting for that female fly to come. And he did not stop there. What this fly was planning to talk to the other one when it came. So in that way, he went on taking a deviation, similar, almost establishing a kind of similarity with the practical waiting that he was doing. This gentleman also has taken a lot of necessary deviations. I don't say unnecessary. And these deviations have added to the expectations of the readers, because what happens next? So the deviation never looked like a deviation, but it was a purposeful deviation, but the deviation looks an essential part. If I ask you what are the minimum parts in human body, you cannot recognize, but there are so many superfluous parts. And the proof of it is we survive even without them. So sometimes it's very difficult. So entertaining deviations, look at it. I put the book aside and watched men burning woods in the distance. Smoke drifted over the thatched houses in the eventide sky. Crows did not caw, dogs did not bark, people did not quarrel, and for the longest time there was silence. It felt like we were in a picture titled The Boys in a Two Boys on a Terrace, he says. So when you read this, no, how you feel sometimes, though as the girl who was meddling with the petals of the bougainvillea flowers, similarly, deviations are normal in life, but very few people can note them. Inkoka beautiful. He came to a stop on the sidewalk and inspected a fallen red leaf, crisp at the edges. He's now describing a fallen leaf, dry leaf, crisp at the edges, the size of his form, as real as the drops in his eyes. How could there be so many colors? He picked it up. An ant scurried out from the curved edge and he gently put the leaf back on the ground. So why should he talk about even an ant that was running quickly over the leaf? And he talked about the edge of the leaf and all these things. These are necessary deviations sometimes. And nostalgia, as it is common, and humor, last but not the least, is a very important aspect which one cannot avoid reading this book, because that is the only gum. Occasionally we need a kind of relief. So comic relief in movies or in dramas, and we see it here. And when he, in one of the stories, when he talks about the school girls, he narrates the game of strike. I don't know how many of you know this game of strike. Strike is a game where a boy counts the number of seconds that pass between each two looks that meet. So I think megastar Chiranjeevi says in one of the movies, I'm sure she will turn back, maybe in Shankar Dada, and the girl will ultimately turn back. But here, boys count on the matching of the looks, how many seconds it takes. If it takes 2 minutes, he has one calculation. If it takes for every 10 seconds, the frequency of the meeting of the looks decides the kind of love that the girl, harbors in her heart. And he calls it the game of strike. I've been deeply oblivious to strike, a different game. One everybody else plays in the class. The rule of strikes are simple. It starts when it becomes apparent that someone is checking out their crush. You count the seconds until they look at other person again. 15 seconds or 40 seconds or 2 minutes or however long it takes. The shorter the interval, the more interesting it is to watch. When the glances are reciprocated, the eyes meet in a perfect match, you shout, strike. That's what the boy says. Strike means, yes, you are on my track. It's a kind of a thing. So these are childish games which he liked. And there are so many things which I don't want to consume your time with. And one thing I liked, మన పిల్లలు అప్పుడప్పుడు నిద్రపోతుంటారు. వాళ్ళని నిద్ర లేపాలి అంటే మనం ఏదో ఒక టెక్నిక్ లే అని ఒక తందంటం అనేది చాలా అది మొరటుతనం, మనం చేయం. కానీ ఇక్కడ he introduces a technique. That is, when a kid is really sleeping, his or her left leg twitches. That's what the father says. When you are really sleeping, your leg twitches and the child immediately twitches to confirm that he is sleeping, but not knowing that he was actually telling more than he was telling, that he is more awake. So that is the game the father used to play with the children, and every time the child fell into his trap, and so he says, it took me a few months to wise up to this trick. The word wise up, hats off. It took us a few months to wise up to this trick. He says, wise up means to learn the wisdom enough to understand the intricacy of this strategy. But that's what the idea, he says. And he also talks about like calling everybody a fellow. A newspaper. That adds a lot of humor, which I don't want. There are so many things. So, this is a kind of a thing I wanted to share with you. There are so many paragraphs which I'm afraid might turn into boredom if I refer to. The very purpose of this is to make you read this book. And no short story given by this man is short literally also. but never short of the experience it gives you. No short story out of the 11 runs beyond 15 pages. And I wonder why 3 out of the 11 stories were divided into sections, like 1, 2, 3, and somewhere he marked like day 1, day 301, etc. Maybe only he can say that. But anyway, that has offered a good reading to the people. The first story, The Bus, talks about his journey from Bangalore to his native place and how it was a bus having only one toilet, and how Nishant wanted to visit, but one after the other, people go into the toilet and the door is open, but their seats are vacant. Slowly, steadily, he waits. At first, he doubts whether they have come out or not. When the door is hung open, where did this man go? Was a question. Slowly, and he never named the people. He said, seat 11, seat 12, seat 13. The trick is really great. We enjoyed it. And finally, the story ends in enigma. He is afraid. People develop a kind of fear for going in and hold themselves up without getting into. And he creates a kind of eerie situation. That's what we see. And Come With Me is a second story where he talks about a kind of relationship between himself and an elderly boy to whom he is attracted. The boy named Salim. So much attracted that we don't know whether it was a kind of physical glamour or an emotional dependence. The boy slowly makes his way into the house, become a member of the family. And one fine morning, when trust reaches the point of great height, one fine morning, the twist in the story is the boy, a very clever man, this fellow, he did not clearly say whether the boy had developed an affair with the younger boy's mother, we don't know. But one fine morning when he finally woke up, he saw his friend Salim being beaten by his father who has been away for a long time. And the boy was caught at act. I'm using the word act, using all my tact. Right. So, this is a typical twist. So, how Salim entered his house befriending with the boy, and how finally he trapped his mother, and how the crime was detected. All these things in a very hidden fashion. ఒక చోట గైడ్ అనే ఒక నావెల్ ఉంది, ఆర్కే నారాయణ చెప్తాడు. They became so close and finally they closed the door upon the world, he says. So he leaves it to your understanding. Good. And the next one is Immigrant. So he talks about the difficulties of boys who go to America in finding a job, adjusting themselves 4 or 5 in a room. All these things. I understand. I'm closing. So, and then lunch, I told you. The Protocol is another interesting story where he talks about Gautam, who wants to get a permanent residence in America, for which he cleverly plans to get married to a black woman so that he would automatically be granted this permanent residence. But finally he discovers at the end of the affair that she had a daughter, that she never reveals it. Anyway, the procedure of going through the kind of authorities who interview you before granting the visa, all these things, the irony and the kind of, the kind of critical questions they ask. At the end, they ask a question secretly between him and the prospective wife. So what is your most preferred spot for your honeymoon? And the man doesn't specify, and he says he's already looking for some employment, he has some financial problems, etc. But the lady, out of anxiety, says Hawaii. That brings them to the refusal of the permanent residency. And the Zamindar story, a very interesting story, and we should all read it. I think I have already given you. The math of living is the excitement and the experience of coming to India, special treatments in the beginning and slowly getting used, and that's what you see. And the C is also a story where Rafi, a maths teacher in Beamley Government High School, loses his wife at a sea, and all his search, all the efforts of the police, they don't turn out fruitful, and how finally he himself dives into the ocean, and we don't know whether he returns. Only he knows, perhaps. And the best possible experience is the last story where Alex, the son of a tourist guide, a driver cum guide, Lorenco, the father moves like a friend, as Mr. Ramana with our Nishant. And the father had an obsession with aircrafts and aeroplanes because it was the time an aerodrome was being built in that area. So finally, the father at one point loses his job and goes through difficulties. Still, he wanted his dream to be realized through his son. And at one point, he borrows money and raises loans to educate his son. Finally, the son brings a girl, Lara, whom he wanted to get married to, and the father permits. And finally, the son he becomes a pilot. He arranges a flight for the father to have the experience of flying in the air, but the flight never returns, unfortunately. So his name was found in the list of missing people, and that is the twist at the end, and we all cannot but sympathize with the characters. So this is all I would like to say about the book. In fact, out of the 10 or 15 examples I selected, I have read only one or two, but everything is worthy about the book. I think it will definitely engage 3 to 4 hours of time in a wise and knowledgeful way. And thank you for giving me this much of a time, and people are already frowning at me. Thank you. Now, thank you. From the prolonged clap, I can understand how much you are relieved. Thank you. Whatever it is. If not for the children, it is for the benefit of some of the teachers who were trying to listen to this that I wanted to give the essence of the book in the smallest way possible. Now, I leave the platform to the most awaited event, interaction with the writer. So I request the writer please, I understand. No, please. No issues. You will be given the video to watch, perhaps. Don't worry. So I request Nishant to speak a few words before we initiate the interaction session, because some of you might have got a few questions, though you did not read the book. At least those who read or those who wanted to read and had so many questions about this gentleman, you can ask. In the beginning, I wanted him to share a few words about him. Yeah, would you like to talk? All right. Now is the time that we should honor or felicitate our guest of importance today, Dr. Ramesh. Thank you.
Sorry, I could not wait for you because.
Thank you for being kind enough. Dr. Ramesh had another busy appointment with the Vice Chancellor today, and he is about to leave, and is not able to listen to our great address. Please, sir. Okay.
I want to start by saying thank you to Synergy and Sri Prakash institutions for having me. It's a great honor to be here with all of you and spend this morning and I know it's already very late and probably lunchtime, and I know some of you are probably hungry. So I'll keep it short, mainly because I think I'm very, I'm a shy person in general. I remember when I was a kid, there were like speech, debate competitions or something like that. And my father used to push me in front of in front of the stage and ask me to speak. And then I'd be very nervous. I would have so much stage fright that I would be sweating all over. So I'm still the same in some capacity. Maybe this is why I wrote the book, so I don't have to speak and the book itself can speak for me. But I am truly, truly moved by everything Shastri Garu has said about my book. It is truly a pleasure to be read that closely, and I'm very grateful for that. One thing that strikes me when I see so many children here is, and also the quality of the school that I'm seeing, and from all the things that I've heard about this school, it just makes me wish that I can be a child at this school. It makes me not only because this school is wonderful, I can see that it's truly wonderful, but also because there comes a point in life when inevitably you feel, oh, life was so much easier when we were kids. We didn't have to worry about salaries and rents and loans and whatnot. In some ways, life was easier. I am not saying all of this to say that you kids in the school are in a great spot, which you are, but also to say that the hardest challenges that life has for all of us, especially I'm saying this about the students in this school who are, you're very young. The hardest challenges in your life are ahead of you. And there'll be many, many times in your life when you'll be confronted with doubt, anxiety, and maybe even depression. I don't know. I wish nothing but the best for you, but there will be times when life will test you. And the only thing that can keep you going through those times, it's other than the love and support of your family, is literature. This is why I want all of you to read, because only literature can help us navigate the tricky waters of life. I'm confident that you will all do a wonderful job, and by job I mean like you'll do exceedingly well with your futures. One, because you're studying here, and two, because I just know when I have a feeling like when I see the care that's being put into the school by that's care that's going in from teachers, I see how it translates, and I wish everybody the very best, and thank you.
Thank you. Nishant, for an outpour of your heart and your desire to be a student again. Now it is the time for any of the audience to ask a question to this gentleman, to get it appropriately answered. I welcome anybody. Yeah, please. One of you, please run the mic.
So, my question is, Nishant sir, that what gave you the inspiration to pen down such an awesome book?
Thank you. What is your name?
Avik Bhattacharya.
Hi. So you said Nishant Garu. Throughout, even in the beginning, many people were, I think these two children, these two girls were introducing some of the guests on the stage, and every time I kept hearing Nishant Garu, Nishant Garu. And I thought, I kept looking behind, like, is there somebody who's respected? Because I don't think of myself as Nishant Garu. I'm just Nishant. So when you ask me the question about, what made me pen down this superb book or whatever, all of those accolades that people are throwing around, I don't think of it as this Nishant Garu who wrote this book. No. I am just an ordinary person who wrote a book about what truly matters to my heart. And that is what all one can hope to do, to live with sincerity, with integrity, and to read and write with utmost precision and clarity, and just hope for the best from there.
Namaste, sir. I am Arjun from Kakinada campus, studying in grade 8. I am really overwhelmed to get an opportunity to interact with you. So my question to you is, what inspired to start your journey as a writer?
Good question. So even as a child, even as a boy like you, I read a lot. I used to sometimes scribble in notebooks. Maybe I used to even make up stories in my head, but I never really thought of myself as a writer. I really loved reading. I used to sometimes, I would be walking down the stairs or whatnot, or sometimes even thinking about the book I was reading, and I wouldn't even notice that I was scratching my hands against the wall. It was almost as if Nishant was just a mind and the body was just something that came along with it. So I think a part of me was always like that. So I think I was always inclined to be a writer in that sense, but I didn't really discover it until I moved to America, and then I was really lonely, and I wanted to. I was missing home. I was missing my family. I was missing my country, and I used writing as a way to construct a home with words, because I didn't have a home, and language was the next best thing I had.
Thank you, sir.
Namaste, sir. Sir, I Kritika of grade 8. Sir, do you think writing a book is easy, and what is your suggestion to the future writers?
Writing a book is one of the hardest things in the world. It's definitely not easy. But I wouldn't recommend it unless you have a really strong impulse to say something to the world. If my advice for a beginning writer would be to read a lot and to trust that with practice, the voice will emerge.
So, what is the suggestion to the future writers?
That is the suggestion, to read a lot, and keep writing, because nothing beats practice.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, my question is, what experiences have you encountered in your life during this journey?
Many experiences. When I was, you have to, I don't know if you know the context, but I was writing in America. So I was writing in English, and Americans prefer their prose to be of a certain style. I know Shastri sir mentioned like a couple of metaphors and similes that I used in my book. But for them, metaphors and similes are a distraction. So when I started my journey, they didn't want me to use any metaphors. And it was like a struggle as to, they would always, like, I would write a story and they would like cut out all of the metaphors. And so there was many experiences like that where I had to learn how to improve my craft. So there were a lot of experiences, learning experiences that, I encountered. Not too dissimilar from experiences that an athlete might encounter, like in terms of like improving their skill.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Samir from class 12, and I have a question for you. I've been wanting to start writing my own book, and I have a story in mind and the facts that I want to mention in the book. But I'm not quite sure if how I should begin the book so that it carries the essence right from the first page till the end and leaves the people hooked up to the book.
That's a very good question. Sometimes there is a perfectionist in all of us. Like we want to look the best. We want to get 100 out of 100 on exams. So it's like there's always that desire, which is natural. It's a natural desire. You want to write a story that's perfect, but you cannot start from there. So you have to allow your first draft to be messy, to be imperfect. Only when you've written it on the paper, then you can take a look at what you've written and then see what's missing and then improve it. You can't start with 100. You have to start with 0 and get to 100.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, good afternoon, sir. Myself, Pragna from grade 10th. So my question to you is, how did you end up with HarperCollins as your publisher?
So I have a literary agent. She signed me after reading my work, and this was at my master's program in America. So she read the stories of many of my classmates, and then she liked mine best, and then she chose me and then she started working with me. So she sent my manuscript to HarperCollins in India and Pantheon in the US, and they chose my book for publication.
Thank you, sir.
Namaste, sir. Namaste, sir. I'm Harsha of grade 9, and I'm from Sri Prakash Kakinada campus. We know that after writing notes for half an hour, we feel so bored. Now my question for you is, how did you stay motivated until you complete this big book?
Do you like cricket?
Yes, sir.
Can you watch any number of hours?
Yes.
If it's a one-day match, you'll watch all. If it's a test match, you'll watch all 5 days?
Yes, sir.
If your parents don't stop you, you'll watch it?
Yes, sir.
Why?
I like it, sir.
Same.
Is it because it is your personal experience or?
So this is always very hard because it's like asking to choose between your two eyes and saying which one is your favorite. But I do have a soft corner for one story in particular, just a tiny bit more than the others. It's called Summers of Waiting. I think in some ways it's the heart of the book. It's the story is about a grandfather and a granddaughter, and the granddaughter lives in the States. The grandfather lives in a village near here. So every year she comes home to visit to see him. She knows he's going to die, and she knows time is running out, that she doesn't have anybody else. So I think it's probably the closest to my heart in the sense that I'm always worried about what happens to us, when our loved ones are are facing death. It seems really difficult to imagine a life without the people we love. So that story deals with all of that dynamic.
Thank you, sir. I would definitely start reading with that story.
Namaste. Namaste, sir. I'm Anishi Tigi of grade 9. I'm from Kakinada campus. So many people do things for survival, but did you write this for money, fame, or for the passion for writing?
You said something about many people do things for survival, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm no different. I did this for survival. I wrote this book for my survival, like the survival of my soul.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Working in Sri Prakash Synergy School. I have only one question. Generally we have many household chores as well as other experiences, and we have to do a lot of work also. I want to know, what is your time management mantra to think about your passion, and you please suggest all others or the sprouting writers among here, they may be in future going to write just like you, how they can manage their time to go along with the passion and by doing the works as well.
I'm actually a very, very bad example at this. I wish I had better time management strategies. So what I do is not something I would recommend anybody should do.
Okay.
What I did was, so I had, over the course of writing this book, for a large part, other than when I was in my master's program and exclusively studying, other than that 3-year period, I was doing a job. So I would work 9 to 5, come back home, do household chores, and then, I have a 2-year-old son. So now he's 2 years old, but when I was writing the book, he was still a baby.
Yeah.
So I would stay up at night because the baby used to wake up. So I would write the book at night, sleeping maybe 2 hours a day. So it's not good advice, because it's like the only way I could write this book was to write at night or write in the weekends, which is challenging. So what I know I'm saying that all of that because life sometimes places difficult demands on our time, and I think you should be disciplined enough to be able to carve out 1 hour every day. That's enough. But I don't have that self-discipline, so I tend to extend myself and work at night.
Thank you so much, sir.
Namaste, sir. I'm Stephen, studying in grade 10. So, you have been forced to join the general race, engineering or doctor. So, my question is, as youngsters, we all want to know, how did you convince your parents to support your passion? Or rather, should I say, how did you escape it?
So I did not escape it. I studied engineering. I did a master's in engineering too. So But what I did not stop doing was trying to find my passion. So even though I was continuing this stable career choice of being an engineer, I was still searching for what my passion was. And once I realized writing was my passion, I put all my energy into writing. So I wouldn't expect, somebody who as young as you are to know what your passion is. If you do, great. If not, accept that it will take several years to find out what that is. In the meantime, keep studying and keep searching.
Sir, and how did you convince your parents after realizing your passion?
I think if it's your true passion, your parents will understand. It'll come across. You don't have to explain. They'll see it.
Thank you, sir.
I just have I don't know if this sounds silly. Right from the beginning, I too had the passion for the words, to tell you very honestly, be it in any language, Urdu, Hindi, Telugu, English. But at some point of time, now as a teacher, when I see some of the students, they really have a lot of, that poetic sense or the expression, but somewhere they get back a step backward, because they feel they really want to write, but they feel that until and unless we are strong in our vocabulary or in a language, whatever we speak or write, we can't put it on the paper. This is what exactly stops as a child, as a student even. Till now, it's there on my mind too. Of course, by God's grace, my daughter is writing nowadays. She's a content writer and author too. But for the children, of course, for me also, as a writer, as a grooming and brooming writer, what do you suggest? It's out of your experience. I mean, you can tell us, is it the passion for words or passion for writing, or how it happened to you?
When I began writing, it didn't start as a passion for words. It began as a passion for describing my feelings, for telling a story. So because I realized that I would need to equip myself with a larger vocabulary and to have better mastery over prose, I started reading more and more books and started reading more and more poetry, and I started picking up all of those things. So sometimes it's one of those things. You can't put a cart before a horse. Sometimes you need to prioritize what is the one aspect of writing that's really compelling you. Like, why are you writing? Are you writing just because you like words? If so, then by all means continue reading more and more poetry and picking up more and more words. Or the other question is, are you writing to tell a story? Are you writing to describe an emotion? And I think you will find that each writer will find their own individual answer to that question.
So you mean that it's basically the purpose?
Yes.
For what they want to write. Thank you so much.
Feel if you reread your story? How do you feel if you reread your story?
Mostly I feel a lot of shame because I see so many mistakes or chances for missed opportunities where I could have done better, where I could have improved. And so I prefer not to reread my stories. At least when I've finished reading and when I've finished editing and writing, when a piece is submitted for publication, I sort of close that chapter in my brain.
Thank you, sir, for this enlightening session. Now, it is with great pride and privilege I would like to request the Honorable Director, Sri C.H. Vijay Prakash Garu, to present the token of love to Sri Shaila Shastri Garu, the President of this event. Once again, I request our respected director, sir, to present the memento to Injam Venkata Ramana Garu. Let's give a huge round of applause as we honor the author of the book, The Best Possible Experience, Shri Nishant Injam Garu, with the memento.
Students, the staff, the academic coordinators, and the author who have taken out time from their busy schedule to attend today's event. Thank you, one and all. I hereby request all of you to rise in unison to honor our nation with the national anthem.
Students who wish to have the book signed by the author himself, we'll have it there, okay, after lunch. Okay, thank you.